We have Amir Adnani, CEO of the Uranium Energy Corporation. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I think before we dive into talking about the real theme of the session, which is sustainable mining of uranium and the role that nuclear energy can play in a broader sustainable mining environment, I'd love for each of you to kind of reflect on the events of the past 3 days for the nuclear community. I think we came into this COP really expecting that it was going to be an oil and gas COP, and in so many ways now it's actually become a nuclear COP, which is incredibly important, incredibly profound, a huge development for the nuclear community. Amir, any reflections on your end?
Yeah, just really to echo much of what's already been said, I would certainly agree that calling this nuclear COP would be quite appropriate. Nuclear energy has gone from being on the outside of COP and previous meetings to really being front and center. Here we are at the center of the energy transition pavilion. The pledge to triple nuclear energy was so well received, so much media coverage around it, so much positive discussion around it, not just around the world, but even here in the host nation, UAE, which is a hydrocarbon-rich country, to be so committed to already having brought 4 units online in Abu Dhabi, 4 existing power plants for nuclear energy, but even thinking about and planning to build more. So I think it's certainly a monumental moment for nuclear energy, but at the same time, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it is driven by demand. Demand as a result of the mega trends of electrification and decarbonization bring to the doorsteps of nuclear energy this very broad acceptance that we have just simply never seen before at this level.
Scott mentioned that you're on the ground working, thinking about building the capacity in these supply chains, dealing with the issues around sustainability. How is your company specifically dealing with these issues? And then I want to turn to Roland and talk a little bit more about how the next gen nuclear side is kind of shaping this environment as well.
As an entrepreneur, I started Uranium Energy Corp 18 years ago. And in the last few years, we have been the fastest growing uranium company in the world, making significant investments in acquiring mines, assembling teams, and really getting ready to bring the next generation of uranium mines online. And we plan to do that in Texas and Wyoming. And in Wyoming, we're very excited about initial new production in the next 6 months into 2024. And so let's talk about now the challenges. The challenges are real. There are supply chain challenges. There are human resource challenges. I have a young family. I can't wait to get home to encourage my 15-year-old and 13-year-old to get into nuclear business, to get into uranium, because there are decades of positive progress coming, okay? But at this conference at COP28, there's a pledge to triple nuclear power. But on the supply side, when it comes to labor, when it comes to human resources and materials, no one's made a pledge yet to triple the size of mining engineers and nuclear scientists and the workforce that's needed to get us to those positive demand signals that you see. So we're tackling that head on. We're excited about the chances that we've created, but I have a bit of a first mover advantage. I've been at this for 18 years, building for this moment in time, believing that this was coming. So we're well prepared. But I think at the end of the day, there are a slew of challenges, one of which we haven't even touched on yet, is really geopolitical. This world today is full of complicated political and geopolitical events that countries need to navigate around sanctions, around transportation, around insurance as a result of the outsized role that Russia plays in nuclear energy. So look, I'm focused on North American resources. I really believe that in North America and in the U.S., we need to repatriate the nuclear fuel cycle and stand it up domestically. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of investing billions of dollars in nuclear reactors if we can't power them? That is an investment that is necessary, and that's what uranium energy is really focused on singularly.
UEC just announced an MOU with TerraPower. Can you tell us the details of that and what that means for this conversation, not just about how we think about next generation nuclear activities, but to the points that Roland and Scott were making, there are huge advantages in the SMR space. We just kind of got to get them there. So talk to us a little bit about it.
I think one of the interesting trends is my company, Uranium Energy, we're in Texas, Wyoming, and Saskatchewan in terms of the locations we build mines in. In Wyoming, you have an interesting kind of poster child for another trend around the SMRs, which is to really convert sites where previously coal-fired power plants used to be, converting coal to SMR or coal to nuclear. It's quite intuitive because, again, the infrastructure, grid connectivity, all of that is there. And Bill Gates' company has proposed to build a unit like this in the state of Wyoming. That's where we're looking to go into uranium production next next year. And we're really together view the same strategic imperative, which is, again, the need to be able to back up the decades of future electricity generation from an SMR with locally sourced fuel. So what a beautiful message to be able to source your fuel from your own backyard and to be able to really collaborate in growing the domestic nuclear fuel cycle. I think the elephant in the room really with SMRs, if you're to really appreciate, I think where the step change is going to come from, is to really pay attention to what NVIDIA is talking about, the chip maker. NVIDIA is talking about shipping 1.5 million servers by 2027 in order to support the demands coming from Silicon Valley for artificial intelligence. That's going to require the same amount of energy as a small country. So think about that for a second. AI is going to reshape energy consumption. And that's, I think, a reason why we're now seeing Silicon Valley really get behind nuclear power and SMRs, because this is the most logical way to really power data centers into the future in a way that is really, as Roland was speaking to, off-grid or behind the fence, provides that sort of high-quality baseload power that is needed. And really, it's the only way to really achieve. And I think this connectivity, connecting the dots between nuclear energy and IT, Silicon Valley and AI, it's something we need to really get our head wrapped around, because it really puts the impetus on us to recognize that we're not just there to support mining and industrial applications. This is the way of the future, and nuclear can really be that important game-changing energy.
Amir, how do we carry this conversation forward from the COP? How do we implement the successes that we saw over the past couple of days, but with particular attention to the role of the supply chain and next-gen nuclear in those commitments?
I think we charge our batteries, we look at each other as an industry, and we say, this is the moment we were waiting for. It's a humongous opportunity, and let's just go tackle it, bottom line, right? And I think we're supposed to talk about sustainable uranium mining. I'll just touch on that, and I think it speaks to the issues that you raised. We're taking the first step in our industry to basically unveil what will become the first ever net zero uranium mine. That is completely disclosed in terms of how we're achieving that. Inaugural sustainability report, follow-on sustainability report, all of this is on our website at uraniumenergy.com. And it really is full of everything we've talked about here. We're giving out high school science and math scholarships to the local communities that we're in, investing for decades to come, because it starts at that level. Creating those relationships with universities in the areas that we're in. That's all addressing the human resource side of the equation. Working with local contractors. If we have a lot of need for drilling, you can't find drillers anymore. We're working and providing commitment to our contractors and consultants to say, we see longevity and growth here. Invest in your business so you can support our business for years to come as a key integral supplier. And really just getting out there and saying that we've never seen this much runway than what was being presented to us at COP today. Tripling 2050. Yes, Roland's 100% right. This is a long-term capital intensive business. But what else do we need than an almost 25-year, 30-year time horizon with a tripling? That's the policy signal that we needed. We commit to proper, sustainable way of building these businesses, from net zero uranium to net zero nuclear, emission-free nuclear. This is going to be the coolest industry on the planet, with exceptional return for shareholders and lots, thousands and hundreds of thousands of meaningful jobs that are going to be created in the process as well. I think everyone's going to win.
Past 2 days, you had a busy first chunk of the COP, right? Looking ahead to the balance of these 2 weeks, what do you hope to see come out of this COP that would really advance the nuclear agenda in one way or the world, knowing that you got a pretty good win early on?
I think, as far as I understand, and you can correct me, but the pledge to the 3X that we keep talking about, I believe it's currently open for more signatures. So maybe over the next 2 weeks, the number of 22 countries or more that have pledged, maybe that number goes up, number one. Number two, would love to see the World Bank step in and start to talk about funding that they can provide as well, or provide that eligibility at the World Bank level. Seeing that alignment to go from a pledge to, again, the fact that both Scott and Roland talked about the capital intensive regulatory nature of the industry. Well, again, here we are at COP, and again, key government officials are here, intergovernmental organizations are here. Would be wonderful to see a bit more of the granularity that is needed beyond the pledge, maybe come together in the next 2 weeks that gives us even more strength to carry this momentum forward.
I'd like to thank our panelists with a brief round of applause.